Guys, this week, I am talking to Kristen, who, interestingly enough, I met kind of completely randomly here in Mexico City. She recognized me because y'all know I am horrible about like being friendly and talking to people and starting a conversation with people I don't know. Um, so we're going to talk about her experience over these past few months, why she was in Mexico, what she was doing. But before we jump into that, if you are new here and you are wondering who I am, my name is Adelia Aborashade. I am the founder of Picky Girls Travel Solo, a Facebook group, a safe place for Black women solo travelers, all ages, all levels of experience. I am also a financial educator who believes strongly in helping other women figure out their money so that they can live the life that they love. I do that primarily through the Financial Confidence Academy. There are links to all of these things in the description, so check those out. This channel, we talk about travel, particularly solo travel. We talk about life abroad, and we talk about, the money piece of that. So if any of that is of interest to you, be sure to subscribe, turn on notifications. That way you know when there is a new video. Okay, Kristen. Um, how did you end up in Mexico? Because this was what, maybe 4 months. Well, let me not try and do the math in my head. It is September now, and
hmm
that was probably like May, April, May.
I think it was the very first week of May.
Okay.
It was a Saturday, but yeah, yeah. Um, so basically I had always wanted to teach English abroad. Um, but I was just waiting for the right moment. And so in 2021, I went ahead and got my TOEFL certification, my TOEFL certification through Oxford Seminars, and they have a lifetime job placement service. And so through that service, I said, hey, what opportunities are available? And they sent me a small language school in Tehuacan, Mexico that I'd never heard of. But I said, you know what? Let's do it. It's a 4 month contract. If I don't like it, I just go home. Mexico is close by, so it's not like I'll be too far from home. And so when I was there in Mexico City, I just went a week before just to like travel around solo before taking the bus down to Tehuacan.
Okay. So let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
I am interested, like, you said I had always wanted to teach English somewhere else. Why? Because I asked this question. Let me preface this a
hmm
little bit. This is coming from because when I first moved to Mexico in 2017, I ended up teaching English and discovered very quickly, like, I like to teach other things. English is not one of them. Uh,
Okay.
so I personally am intrigued to meet someone who's like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I wanted to do.
Well, honestly, I think because of all of the travel blogs and the different, social media accounts where people talk about their experience, the highlight for me was being able to travel and then being able to make money while I'm traveling in a sense. That was the the number one reason why I was like, okay, I think I want to try teaching English. And I've always liked working with kids and I've taught preschool, but this is now I know it's very different than teaching English. But yeah, just the idea of being able to go to another country, being able to immerse yourself in the culture, you don't have to worry so much about the financial part because you are working and making money while you're doing this job.
Okay, so it was a way to kind of hack traveling. Now, prior
Yes.
to doing this, had you done much traveling?
Here and there, a few solo trips. but not long term like this. I mean, 4 months to my family, I was like, okay, that's a really long time.
We're gonna get into that in a sec. Now, you mentioned that you went through the certification process because there are options for people to teach English um, online, probably
Mhm.
primarily, where you don't need additional certification or anything like that.
Right.
Why did you opt to go the route that you did?
Um, the job placement service was a very attractive offer to me, and I know someone personally that went through this process, and he ended up in South Korea. Like, I think he's been there maybe 4 years now. He loves it. So he recommended to go through the proper channels. Well, I'll say proper because it depends on who you are and what you want, but he recommended to go this route. And I said, okay, well, let me do it this way because I have no idea how to even start applying for jobs. I would prefer to have all the help, that I could get.
Okay. So did you do this program online or did you have to go somewhere in person?
Yes, because of COVID, even though, like I said, it was 2021, but we were still madness.
We
So,
still are.
well, yeah, exactly. So they were only offering Zoom classes. And it was, I think, 3 weekends, 8 hours each day. And then you have to take the exam, of course, and then they mail you your certificate.
Okay. And without going into too much detail, like what did you get from doing this program? Like what did you learn?
Um, Really, I think I learned, like, we had to do a mock class with our classmates. That helped me to have more confidence in teaching the material, and then also like navigating Zoom and teaching online because I knew that that might be something I'd have to do because a lot of the countries, the borders were still closed. So I was like, okay, if I'm going to teach, I may not even be able to go to that country. So that helped me there. And then just learning like the different methods of teaching. We went really in depth. We got a few different textbooks. And then really learning from someone who had experienced it, had lived the experience. Our teacher, she'd been all over the world. She taught in like Qatar. I mean, you name it, she had taught there, and she had so many good tips and advice to give, and really, it just was a great experience.
Well, I taught in K-12 education for 22, 23 years, something like that. And
Mhm.
so I remember what it was like to be a brand new teacher and they kind of just throw you to the wolves without
Yes.
much like real hands-on practical things. So, and I'm thinking about what that would be like because as we mentioned or we alluded to earlier, there are places in other countries that will hire you to teach English without certification. But in those instances, not only are you adjusting to life in this new country and how working in another country, because when you go on vacation somewhere, that's different than having to
Mhm.
interact with people in a professional setting on top of, oh, I got to figure out how to teach this because English is a ridiculous language.
Yes.
Um, I have to figure out how to teach this to people who don't really speak English. So I can definitely identify with how valuable something like that was. Um, how much did it cost?
Oh, I meant to write that down because I thought you were going to ask. I don't remember. I want to say it was about $1,500,
Okay.
maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
And do you feel like you got your money's worth?
I do.
Okay.
Um, yeah, the content, everything they provided was great, and then the service afterwards through the job advisor, and it's just been really good. company to go through.
Because I see these people posting like, oh yeah, I got my TEFL on Groupon for $5.
Yeah.
And so if you know that that's possible, it might be a hard sell to be like, hey, you need to spend $1,000, $1,500 on this program, but you just mentioned like the job placement part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain or talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so it's a lifetime offer. So they said they gave several examples in the orientation. If you go away, you teach for a 2-year contract, and then you come back to the US, you take a break for, I don't know, 5, 10 years. You say, oh, hey, I want to go back and teach in Spain now. You call them up, and even though that length of time has passed, they can still find you another job. So it's a lifetime offer, and that was like a real selling point for me. And then they had like testimonies from graduates, um, and they said Oxford Seminars, I can't remember how long they've been in the business, but they've been around for a while, so they have that credibility. And then the connections they have with schools all over the world, and I just thought, okay, this is good.
Okay, you mentioned that the contract that you got here in Mexico was for 4 months. Is
Right.
that a typical length of the kind of contracts, or are there some longer?
Um, I think I think generally speaking, they're longer. With this school in particular, I think the 4 months was because of the visa requirements. Um, I think they wanted to avoid having to go through all of that, so they just do 4 month semesters. So that way you can come on a tourist visa.
The school did this.
Yes, yes,
That's interesting. That's interesting.
yeah.
Um, there was something else I was going to ask about that. Um, but well, yeah, because here in Mexico, if they sponsor your work visa, they
Hmm.
have to, first of all, there's only so many foreigners they can have as a percentage of how many employees they have. They then have to submit documentation of why you are the person for this job and they can't hire somebody local. I mean, like, we
Yeah.
we know that there are businesses who look for cheaper labor solutions.
Hmm.
I was curious about how I'm not going to ask you how much you got paid, because often, especially if somebody is watching this and they have not lived outside of the US,
Hmm.
if you come with, well, this is how much I expect to make, that doesn't always match up with like the cost of living, or wages may seem like, oh my gosh, I could never live on that amount, when really,
Right.
in comparison to the cost of living, it's not bad. So that's really my
Exactly.
question, is the amount that they paid you, because it was the school that paid you, correct?
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay. Did you feel like you could live how you wanted to live in Mexico off of what they paid you?
I will. I can't say a definite yes or a definite no. It was very
Okay.
much in the middle because, obviously I did have to have some of my own savings that I had to reach into, but that was because I like to do solo traveling. So I knew in these 4 months, yeah, I'm gonna go to Puebla some weekends. I'm gonna go to Mexico City. I went to like Veracruz, and obviously the school's pay would not be enough for me to do those things. However, the school did provide housing, and then the money they did pay was really just a living stipend for you to eat. But as you know, the cost of a meal in Mexico is very inexpensive. So, I would say for the most part, yes, it was enough to live off of and still have a good time, and, go to the movies every now and then, go shopping in the markets. So, yeah, and they did say up front, like, hey, this is like a paid volunteer position. It's not meant to be a career.
Yes. And that, them labeling it as such makes more sense about like why the semesters are 4 months.
Hmm.
um and why they're trying to get you to do it on a tourist visa. So, and I assume, tell me if I'm wrong here, that with this company, Oxford Seminars,
Mhm.
if your needs were different, if you were like, I need to like make some money for real,
Yeah,
you could have passed on this job opportunity in Mexico and chosen from something that was more traditional with a longer contract and more pay.
absolutely. Because I should back up some. Initially, I just said, "Hey, what opportunities are available right now?" And I was sent a position in Cambodia, and Spain. And Spain was like the highest paying offer. But again, because Mexico, it was going to be a shorter contract. This was the first time I was really doing this, staying so far, well, not far from home, but staying away from home the longest time. I passed on the Spain application and went ahead with Mexico.
And I mean, now you have experience.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
are you, do you think you're going to continue to do this?
Yes, I actually have started another job in Tehuacan. There was a school maybe 10 minutes from the school I was at, and this one is, I don't want to say a real job.
More traditional,
Yes,
in the more traditional sense.
yes. It's a private school, so it's not just a language school. So this is more, like you said, traditional benefits. They also supply housing. There's an actual salary. It's not a volunteer position.
Okay. And
Yeah.
are you getting a work visa with that?
Yes, that's the thing. This contract is for 1 whole year. So right now I'm in the US waiting on that process. And yeah.
And no, that I'm nodding my head here because I think that's the piece, and I'm guilty of this too. Those of us who worked outside the US, we don't really go into that piece of the visa thing. Like
Mhm.
you could have the contract, school can start, but until the visa paperwork is done,
Yeah.
you're kind of in this limbo place. I know when I initially left Mexico and I went back to teaching, I'd gotten a job in Kuwait, and I had
Oh.
heard so many horror stories where schools were like, well, just come over on a tourist visa and we'll change it. And I was adamant, like, if y'all can't give me, if I can't get a work visa in my hot little hands,
Hmm.
I'm not coming, because that just opens you up to all kinds of issues. But that meant for 2 months, I was living in the US at US prices, and
Mm,
I didn't have any money coming in, you know?
yeah.
Uh, so that part is no fun.
Yeah, but like you said, I do feel like when I read like the travel blogs and people's experience, they kind of just gloss over that. And so I didn't know it was like, I mean, I've only been here a week, a full week, but I can't even get an appointment right now, and it's frustrating.
Okay, well, as a side note, you are not limited to the Mexican consulate in the city you live in.
Okay.
So you may want to kind of look at the list, see who's nearby, whether you can drive there or would it be, a short flight, who you can get an appointment with
Yeah.
might make it worth your time. So yeah, that, and even with you having to do the first part of it outside of Mexico, it's still so much simpler than the visa processes I've gone through for other countries.
Okay.
So that's my advice: is look at the list and see who else is nearby. Because what state are you in?
California.
Okay, so you've got some options in California. You can even go to Nevada. Um,
Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that.
yeah.
Okay.
So no, you've got some options, and that might help speed up things on this end for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so you did this 4 month volunteer experience. You
Uh-huh.
taught English. You got some experience under your belt, and you did this in like Teotihuacan, where the pyramids are?
No, so
Okay.
Tehuacan is like I'm not, I know you taught geography. I'm not good with geography at all, but I think it's south of Puebla City, maybe.
Okay. Because see, that's what I thought. I was like, wasn't she in Puebla? Okay. So this is a little town south of Puebla. It was in the state of Puebla.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
Okay. All right.
I think the population is like 300,000 people. It's very small.
Okay. I thought you were going to say like a village of
Oh no.
10,000 or something. So 300,000 isn't bad because do you know the population of Puebla? I don't off the top of my head of the city.
No.
Um, 300,000 people here. That might be what I see on the metro every day. I don't know.
Exactly.
But that's not, I was thinking you were in like some little tiny Pueblo. But
Oh no. No.
okay, so okay. That's a decent size, I think.
Yeah.
Um, what was that experience like?
Mm, well, okay, so the thing is I live in California. That's what I don't really live in California anymore. I live in Mexico. But I grew up in California in Sacramento, but my family is from a small city in Georgia, like an hour south of Atlanta. So I was already kind of used to the small town feel. And I say small town feel because there's one Walmart in Tehuacan. There's only one Walmart. So if you go there, you will run into someone that you know. And I was already used to that from my experience in Georgia. If you, same thing in the city my family's from, you go to the store, you're going to see your uncle or your teacher. And so I wasn't really surprised by that. What I was surprised at was all of the stares that I got
You
and
were
people asking me for
surprised?
photos.
You
Yeah,
were
I know, I
okay.
know.
Because while 300,000, I know how small places can be in this country. So
Mhm.
I'm thinking 300,000 isn't that bad, but that is not a metropolis.
No.
And there are not people who look like you.
Mm-mm.
Like, and I would bet that this is the kind of town that, like, if they're doing something big, they're going to Puebla. And Puebla
Yes.
is the kind of place that if you're doing something big, you're coming to Mexico City. So, yeah, girl, I am not shocked by that at all. Because, I mean, even here in this very global metropolitan city,
Mhm.
there are times when I don't like to call them stairs because living in China, like that was some staring.
Oh, yeah,
This
yeah.
is more of just like, huh. That's more of what I get here. It's just more of like the look says, huh, I wonder how she ended up here,
Mhm. Mhm.
as opposed to like staring and pointing and laughing
Touching.
and touching. So I am not surprised that in the city of 300,000 people, folks wanted to take your picture because I would bet they have never seen anybody who looked like you.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why. I think I don't know. Because I've read other people's experiences and heard about things, so I was like, no, I don't think it'll be like that.
And I think I have to mention this because folks get in their feelings and they're like, y'all are downplaying things or y'all are trying to make Mexico sound better than it is. Mexico, one of the things that is really interesting to me is it is a country that has an Afro descendant population.
Mhm.
However, it's not across the entire country. So, and I think if you contrast this with the US, like there is no place you go in the US that people don't know, hey, we used to have slavery, and because of slavery, there are Black people here.
Mhm.
Whether it's intentional or not, I feel like there are parts of Mexico where they're like, yo, we used to have slavery, but they don't connect that to, then that means there are dark skinned people here. like
Right.
that piece does not go together. And it's not just Black people. indigenous people get that too,
Mhm.
because I had talked about them cracking down on perpetual tourists and checking people's documents and all of that. Well, they can't do those checks anymore because of a Supreme Court hearing, a Supreme Court ruling that ruled in favor of these indigenous people who,
Mm.
interacting with other Mexicans, they were like, y'all aren't from here. You don't speak the language. This is a country where there are 60 different languages spoken.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's an intentional thing, like folks were actively discouraged from learning about it, but they don't always connect the dots here. So even
Yeah.
though this is a country that has an Afro descendant population, you can find a Mexican on the street and they will tell you with great confidence that there are no Black people here. It's one of the, I don't want to call it an anomaly. It's kind of
Mhm.
an idiosyncrasy, I guess, about this country. So,
Yeah.
so were you kind of like a local celebrity? Because I'm gonna imagine people like would recognize you. Like if you went to a place more than once, people remembered who you were.
Yes, yes. And that's the flip side of it. Yes, it was strange at first, and I guess I'm more used to it now. But it was kind of nice that celebrity that celebrity feel. And then a lot of places like so I don't speak a whole lot of Spanish. I speak a little bit, but I've learned that if I play like, "Oh, I don't know the language. Can you just let me into this bar?" They're just like, okay, go ahead. So it's kind of nice. And people invite you to their table, like, hey, like they want to get to know you, they want to know everything about you. The students, especially, like they're just like eager to find out who you are. Like, why does your hair look like this? I had a student ask me, oh, or in your country, do other people have this color skin? I'm like, yes, yes, actually.
And
So it's
again,
nice.
this is somebody who's, I mean, they're a child, but still, it's I think the same issue we see other places.
Hmm.
The people who look like us are not in media. They are not in advertising. So just like we grew up not seeing that, here this kid did. And so this kid doesn't know that, hey, there are Black people in Mexico,
Yeah.
because there are none. I've never seen an advertisement. Well, I was gonna say I've never seen an advertisement with Black people, but I know at least here in Mexico City, they do shoot commercials where
Hmm.
they specifically are casting, because I've had the casting people reach out to me because of the Facebook group I'm an admin for here. But I'm thinking it's not that widespread.
No.
So I mean, it's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just what it
That's how it
is,
is. Yeah, exactly.
and understanding that. Now you're talking about people inviting you over to their table and wanting to know you. This to me is the difference between like what I experienced when I lived in China, because
Yeah.
it was very much othering, like, oh, look at this thing I saw today, I got to take a picture and show my friends because they're never going to believe it.
Oh
And
no.
your experience sounds like a lot of what I experience here. It's more of people want to know the story of how
Yes.
you ended up here. They want to get to know you as the person. It's not
Hmm.
like you're this sideshow.
Exactly. No, I agree. It's a very two very different things. And I feel like the Mexican people as a whole are just so compassionate and hospitable. So they want to invite you to their house. I've been invited to quinceañeras, like I don't even know you, but okay. And it's just so nice because I know that it's genuine and it's coming from a good place, and like they really want to be your friend, or just get to know you as a person. And it's very nice. It's different, very different from in the US, like you don't just talk to someone you see on the street. Like
No,
that's
and
weird.
that is totally a thing here.
Yeah.
Totally a thing. Um, how was what kind of social life did you have there?
Um, so really it was the schedule we had at work was crazy. Like I was working in the morning and then there was a big siesta break from 1 to 4 and then I work again from 4 to 8. So the weekdays, sometimes my coworkers and I we'd go out for a drink or we'd go get dinner somewhere. But the weekends could get crazy.
Mexicans know how to party.
Yes, I see that. And then the thing is, the next day people get up and go to work at 6 a.m. and I don't understand.
Yep.
But no, it was nice. I mean, even though Tehuacan again, it is small, there's like one big plaza for all the clubs and bars, and then there's like one other bar that you can go to. But we go to those places. They do have some nice restaurants of different cuisines. And then of course Puebla, because it's only 2 hours by bus, we would go there often. And then, there's the college scene. So it was nice. And then the malls in Puebla are nice. So I like that everything is so close that you can do whatever you want to do.
And this particular town, would you say it was fairly walkable? Like, how were you getting to work or to wherever it was you needed to go?
Yeah, it is walkable, but because it's so hot, a lot of times, like, I would just take a taxi. It's about 50 to 70 pesos one way to wherever you want to go in town. There is Uber, but there's literally only two guys that work for Uber. So if they weren't working, you got to take a taxi. But their public transportation is interesting. It's basically these hollowed out Volkswagen vans, and they have like benches inside, and there's no bus stop, so you just flag them down and hop on for about 8 pesos. Wherever you want to stop, just tell them, "Hey, right here," and that's where you get off at.
Collectivos, right?
Yes.
And see, there is, when I talk to people about the transit here, we have them as well. And then we have what are called paseros, which are a little bit more organized than that, but not much.
Hmm.
And the reason I don't take them is I don't understand how you figure out where they're going. Like, I'm on this street and you're driving down this street. How do I know, well, if I'm going downtown, really, this isn't the place to catch the Pasero or the Collectivo that goes downtown? I should be, 3 streets over. I
Yeah.
find that very intimidating.
Yeah, it's a struggle, but I made a note on my phone like, okay, number 43 will take me to the center of the city. Number 11 goes to Walmart. And so I kind of just figured out, and really it was trial and error because one day I did take the wrong one and I don't know where I ended up. And I was panicking. So I just rode it until he took me back to where I got on. But it's interesting. It's very different, but I would never try to drive here. So
Why not?
I'm terrified.
It,
No.
yeah, it is. We walked down the street the other day and there were 3 lanes of cars making a left turn, but there was technically only one left turn lane.
Yeah,
And it's the stuff like that I'm like, no, y'all can have this. I have
exactly.
no interest in being a
Nope.
part of this. Although I did get my driver's license Thursday,
Oh,
just
yes.
just for ID purposes.
Okay.
I do not plan to drive, but it's easier to replace that than your residency card, which I have already lost and had to jump through all the hoops to get a new one. Don't want to
Oh,
do that again. So that's the only reason I did it. Now, it sounds like you had a good experience. I mean, you're getting a more traditional job in that city. Um, do you know, or do you have any inkling at this point how long you might stay?
Honestly, I have no idea. I feel really good with this school that I've signed on with. They did say, at the end of the 1 year, if you want to renew the contract, you can. Um, I have a question. You may know the answer. How long is the tours, or not, sorry, the work visa? Does it depend? Like, will they give it to you for like 2 years or four?
It gets renewed every year. And
Okay.
so if you renew it, because I know someone here in the city that's in their third year, they're at a different school this year. And basically, the plan is you renew it 4 times,
Mhm.
then you can convert it to permanent. And with
Oh,
permanent, you automatically have the right to work. So you can just, like, if you still wanted to be in Mexico, you can just apply for a job because you have permiso de trabajo. So
okay.
if that is something like potentially you would want, it might be worth it to figure out, like, okay, so how can I do this? And they have to be 4 years consecutively.
Okay.
And so then you convert it to permanent. And then because of how Mexico does things, you could then leave, but you'd still have permanent.
Wow.
There's no requirement that you spend any amount of time in the country.
Okay.
And
Well, that's something to think about.
I'm always an advocate for having multiple residencies if you can.
Okay. Okay.
Because if we learn nothing else in the last 2 3 years, it is, if you don't want to be in your home country and borders close, at least if you have residency, they have to let you in. When
Right.
all the borders closed and people were like, oh, do I stay in China or do I go back to the US? I wasn't worried because I was like, I got my Mexican residency. I know where I'm going. They gotta let me in.
Right.
Okay, so I said we were going to talk about this. Now, I have no idea how old you are. I'm going to assume early 20s.
Thank you. But I just turned 28 in
Okay.
July.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And you said you hadn't done that much traveling. This was kind of really your first big amount of time you spent outside the US.
Yes.
So, how did this go over with your people, with your family?
Uh, well, because so my parents don't really travel internationally at all. And because of the media, and you know what they say about Mexico, it's never anything positive. They were very concerned and they were like, what is this city? Like, we don't know what the city is. And I don't know what the city is. So it was like we have nothing to go off of except that it's dangerous. And but even still, I will say they were supportive and they knew this is something I had been talking about doing. And so they gave me their blessing to go ahead and go. But they definitely were still apprehensive and not sure that it was going to be what I was expecting. And yeah, so they were iffy about it.
Okay, and I could understand that, especially if they don't travel, and so what they've primarily got to depend on is what the U.S. media says.
Mhm.
Um, what about your social circle?
My friends were very supportive. Um, and I should preface and say, like, what really pushed me to go ahead and start looking for work. I had just ended a really like traumatic breakup at the beginning of this year in January. And so my friends knew, like, when I said, "Hey, this is what I want to do," they were like, "Go, like this is what you need. You need a new change of scenery. This could be a great opportunity." So they were like, "Yes, 100% go."
Well, that's refreshing to hear because all too often I hear about people, or I get questions from people who are like, nobody supports what I'm trying to do. I've got all these naysayers. Their negativity is, now causing me to question this choice.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. So that's great that you had the support. Now, when your contract was up and you signed on to this new school, your parents were like, great. Or they were like, hey, thought you was coming back home.
No, they were like, this is great. And, I had been like updating them about life in Mexico. And I think it reassured them, like, okay, she's all right. So once I told them, like, hey, I got this big girl job and I told them all the details, it's legitimate and everything. They're like, we're proud of you and um, we're really excited for you. And then they said they will come and visit, but we shall see.
Do they have their passports?
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
But I don't think there's any stamps in it.
Well, you may have to like either pick them up like on one of your trips home, be like, hey, why don't y'all come back with me?
Exactly.
Kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so okay, you mentioned that you wanted to travel around Mexico while you were here for that initial contract. Did you get to do that?
A little bit. Let's see. Yeah, Puebla I've been to a few times now. Mexico City, obviously. Veracruz was really nice. I went during the Carnival in July, and that was crazy. Um, and then Oaxaca. I did get to go on a short, like 3-day weekend, with my friends. And I've already been to the Yucatan in, Cancun and Tulum, but there is still a lot more that I want to see.
Yeah, no, it's an enormous country. People forget that.
Yes.
And there are all types of environments here. You want the desert, you want mountains, you want the tropics. Mexico's got all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think I'm not gonna ask you about dating
Okay.
unless that's something you like, hey girl, let me tell you. I'm not gonna ask you about that, although that is a common question I get. I think we are at the end of the questions that I have for you. Um, is there do you is there a version of this where you might teach English online?
Um, See, the funny thing is, before I signed on with the job that I'm about to start, there was an online company. They were based in Costa Rica, and you could go there or you could teach online. And initially, I thought I did want to teach online because then you can just bop around. But after trying to teach English online briefly, um, I don't think it's for me. I really do like the in-person engagement. And especially because I'm teaching kids. I don't know, it's just different, like being able to have physical materials for crafts and different projects. You can't do that virtually. So I don't think so. Maybe if it was with adults, but not with kids. No.
No, I can understand that.
Yeah.
That was just, I was curious. I was being nosy. Okay. So if you're watching this and, like this has sparked some ideas, um, I think the next video you should watch, there are two. If you're thinking about teaching English abroad, one is my interview with Beverly of Miles and Coffee.
Mm-hmm.
She came to Mexico, got her TEFL, a similar program to yours where they have job placement. And now she's been in Mexico, I forget how many years, and she is out here living her best life. If you're somebody and you think, well, maybe I would prefer to teach online, I interviewed someone who is teaching with Latin Higher,
Okay.
which is it's online language teaching, but they want you to at least be in Latin America somewhere. So you could, if somebody wanted to bop around, that may be an option for them. So I'll link both of those videos in the description, as well as Kristen's Instagram. So you can keep up with the adventures she's having, being, am I correct in saying being the only Black person in Tehuacan?
Well, there are actually two other teachers, so there's three now.
Okay, so that's 3 out of 300,000 people.
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right. So her IG will be linked below as well. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.